Right then, welcome everyone to Rads. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest in the transfer window. We're yet to sign any players so far this summer, but there's some strong reports suggesting that we want to change that very soon. So, since I recorded this video, there has been quite a big news story drop in that Anthony Elanga is the subject of a £45 million bid from Newcastle United. Now, of course, there's been long-standing interest from Newcastle in our Swedish winger. There was a last-minute bid on deadline day last summer. There was clear interest in the January window as well. So it's quite clear that Newcastle want Elanga, and 45 million has been rejected, which might seem like quite a lot to a neutral, but I'm not at all surprised that we've rejected that. We're going to be very hard to please, I'm sure, this summer when it comes to all of our star assets. Elanga came on leaps and bounds last season and he became one of our most important players in my opinion, and I really would not want to lose him because I think he's only going to get better, and I think genuinely staying at Forest is probably the best thing he can do right now. There's been talk of Harvey Barnes coming in to replace Elanga, and I don't mind Barnes, I'd be alright with that to a point, but I know who I'd rather have, and that's Elanga. But this video kind of revolves around players who play in black and white, and that's a bad combination normally when we're talking about Nottingham Forest, but don't worry, it's not them lot. They're not even really in our thinking anymore. We're talking about Juventus and Botafogo, teams that play in black and white stripes. It's a totally different story. Let's talk about the Botafogo deal, because there's 3 players heavily linked with Forest to come all in one deal for a combined 35 million. Igor Jesus, the one we need the most really, a striker, 24 years of age. He previously was playing over in the UAE for a few years and in 88 games scored 43 goals, which is incredible, but it is the UAE league. I don't really think we can take that too seriously. But in the Brazilian league, which the Club World Cup has proven is a higher standard than I think most of us thought, after how they've performed against European teams. Jesus has not looked out of his depth one bit. He scored in 2 of the 3 group games as they've got out of a group with PSG, the European champions that they beat, and Atletico Madrid in that group too. Only 15 goals in 55 games doesn't sound great, but he looks a real handful. And that's what matters really, even if he's not scoring a lot of goals, which is obviously what you want your striker to do, is what they offer overall. Goal scoring number 1, but what can they offer besides that? One of the other players in this deal is Yar Cunha, a centre-back, 20 years of age, 21 games for Botafogo, looks a real handful at only 20 years of age, and he also scored in the Club World Cup against Seattle. But this one looks to be in doubt because Fabrizio Romano said recently that this was basically a done deal, but Cunha has since stated that he doesn't want to leave Botafogo. But do we really need a centre-back? I'm not really sure. Look at how many centre-backs we've got available, with Willy Bolly staying on as well. I don't really know how that's going to work. Obviously, I think a lot of those players coming back from loan could very well leave, the likes of Balotelli. It could very well be going to Strasbourg. He could be going back there permanently, so that's one that could be going out the door. But the third player in this deal is probably the one that we need second most out of these 3, Cabano. I've probably said all of these names wrong, by the way, so apologies. I just don't talk Portuguese really. I don't really talk English that well, to be fair, either, so you know, don't come for me. This guy's a left back, 22 years of age. All 3 of these being under 24 is very encouraging. He's got a fair few games under his belt now at Botafogo, and the one we know probably the least about, the one that is definitely the furthest away from happening so far. But Jesus is the one that matters most, and that looks like it's the one that's most likely to happen. Going over to Europe now, and I actually have just realised we're linked with 3 players from Juventus, so I'm going to talk about another 3 players from the same club. It's just that Timothy Ware and Samuel Bangula, those 2 have been spoken about in the same sentence, the same reports, so those 2 are kind of being separated from Dusan Vlahovic. He's also being linked with us as well. Not seriously worked out at Juventus. You look at his goal record, it's not too bad for the amount of appearances he's got. He has scored at the Club World Cup too, but never fully lived up to expectation and the hype from when he was at Fiorentina. I wouldn't be against it, and I wouldn't be against Timothy Ware either. Of course, another player that back in the day were a real wonder kid. I remember on FIFA 18, he was like the next best thing. I'm going back in time now, aren't I? I actually signed him at Forest once back in the day, so, you know, I clearly rated him. I'm a scout. Having played for PSG, Celtic and Lille, he never truly lived up to his hype from when he was at PSG. And he's off the back of his best goal-scoring season. He's got 6 goals and 5 assists, which isn't great really, you know. I mean, I don't really know whether I should be worried about that. 44 caps and 7 goals for the US national team though. So he's got international pedigree, but from the outside looking in, he's somebody that hasn't really lived up to his expectation. However, that was the same with Callum Hudson-Odoi and to a point Anthony Elanga. We signed them and, well, they've worked out pretty well. And Samuel Mbangula, he appears to be more of a future prospect, but somebody that could definitely come in and play. 21, so he's younger. He's only got 1 senior season to his name, that was last season. 32 appearances, he scored 4 goals, got 5 assists. I don't really like to just stat pad you, but it does give you a fairly good idea of where a certain player is at if you're not aware of them. From what I've seen of him, he kind of, to me, looks a bit like a better version of Alex Martyn. Having been developed at Club Brugge and Anderlecht, he joined Juventus at a young age, spent 4 seasons in their academy and made his senior debut last season. So one of the rumour in that is obviously quite a long-term ongoing thing is Johan Wissa. Let's just speak about him briefly. This is still in the works. It's still something that we clearly want to try and do. A lot of clubs being linked with him in the Premier League and in Turkey, showing interest in Wissa. Brentford are being raided this summer, so you could definitely see him leave. I'd be very, very happy with Wissa. I'd know more about him, and more than anything, he'll be more suited from the get-go to the Premier League than somebody like Jesus or Vlahovic or Timothy Weah. But Wissa has had a extremely prolific time at Brentford and somebody that I don't think you could not be excited by if he came into the club, but I think it's quite a big ask. Probably the most expensive one of the, well, number of options we've got at striker. I'm going to leave it there for now when it comes to incomings. I've already spoken about 3 players from Juve, Botafogo and Wissa. Anything else we've spoken about in future videos, but there's a lot of outgoing rumours as well. I've already spoken about Andrew Omobadadeli potentially going to Strasbourg permanently. So a few of the rumours, of course, you've got the double deal between Danilo and Matt Turner going to Lyon. That will help us out massively, and Lyon again doing us a favour. So another thing that's happened since I recorded this is that Lyon have been relegated to Ligue 2. Not something that happens every day. That's a big shock. It's because of their financial situation, but this surely is going to have an effect on what they can do in the transfer market. So surely they can't really be spending 20 million on Danilo or even the 8 million on Matt Turner. To be honest, if you're spending 8 million on Matt Turner when you're in like 500 million pounds in debt, then you probably deserve to get relegated, to be honest. Yeah, this is just gonna have to be one that we have to wait and see what happens, but I believe both Danilo and Turner will leave, but maybe not to Lyon now. So getting them off our books would be fantastic. And other than this, you've got Lewis O'Brien being linked to the Championship, and I generally think every club in the Championship might be interested in him. Swansea, of course, is where he was at last season. They're showing interest, the likes of Hull, Preston, Southampton, Birmingham. I've seen all these clubs showing an interest in Lewis O'Brien. He needs a permanent home. He's a fantastic player, but just not suited to us anymore. There's also Turkish interest in Jota Silva. This is somebody who I wouldn't be really bothered if he left, but I'd probably favour keeping him in my opinion. I don't think he's the greatest player. I see why people said he weren't good enough, but I think there's something to be said there. He did pretty well when he played as a false striker, and he does offer quite a lot to the team in my opinion, but especially if you bring in another winger, he's going to play less. Maybe he's not really what we need anymore. Seeing reports that Fenerbahce and Besiktas have made an offer, I've also seen reports that they haven't, and Forest have rejected it. So it's a bit early and unknown with Jota at the moment, but there's definite interest from abroad. And let's end the video by talking about ongoing rumours for Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't think Gibbs-White is going to leave right now because Man City, of course, have signed a lot of players in his position. So are they really going to go for him? I think they've clearly either given up or moved on or just signed somebody else ahead of him. So this is good for us. I think it's got to help our chances of keeping Morgan. There has been interest from Saudi though in recent weeks. Al Ali showing an interest. So, I mean, money talks, I guess. You could see him going there. It would be an absolutely horrific move for him. Whether other Premier League clubs would want him, I think Man City, it screams Man City being the team that signed him. And they've already signed a lot of players. So I'm fairly content with Morgan's situation at the moment, but give him a new deal. That would be fantastic. So it's early days, but these all appear to be pretty concrete rumours that are going on at the moment. So stay tuned to the channel for more transfer roundups. They'll most likely be every week really, or at the very least every other week, so stay tuned to that. Regular updates for you. Please stay tuned to the channel, like, subscribe to Rads. Let me know any ideas you want to see over this summer before the season gets going. If you could, that would be great. And yeah, thanks for watching everybody, and up the Reds.